Welcome back everybody to another episode of Direct Comparison. In today's episode, we'll be conducting a comparison between the recently released Project Cars 2 and the brand new Forza Motorsport 7. Now before I start this, please note that both games are good in their own ways and will appeal to different types of gamers. This video is not meant to say one game is better than the other in terms of gameplay, but we will instead focus entirely on the difference in visual quality. To try and make sure these two games match up as best as possible, I tried to use the same vehicle on the same Silverstone GP course with the same weather and time. Unfortunately, Forza 7's weather settings are a real pain to work with, and there's no real easy way to set up a time of day. So I had to try and match Project Cars 2's weather to the footage I obtained of Forza. And no, they're not identical, and there's some subtle lighting differences because of that, but it's about as close as I could get it, and we can still fairly judge things like textures, aliasing, and various other effects. So since both games are running on the PC at a 1440p resolution, we're going to skip over the resolution and frame rate and jump over to the aliasing. We already spoke about Project Cars 2 and its noticeably worse aliasing in our last comparison video, but when compared to Forza 7, it's even more noticeable. Forza 7 has remarkably smooth edges and looks gorgeous in comparison. Project Cars 2 goes for a much sharper image overall, and as a result, the car models and various environmental objects have some noticeable shimmer that just doesn't look great when moving at fast speeds. Forza 7 with 4x MSAA, the same setting applied in Project Cars 2, seems to be implemented much better, and according to Digital Foundry, the unreleased Xbox One X version has even cleaner anti-aliasing and superior image quality. Now here's a point for Project Cars 2, the textures on the McLaren P1 are significantly better in the image on the left here. The lighting is different here, so take this with a grain of salt, but look at the level of detail in the black mesh alone. Then look at the carbon fiber bumper. The design is far more basic in Forza 7, almost to the point of it looking like a Hot Wheels car. Next up, let's talk about anisotropic filtering. The best way to determine this is by looking at the ground textures on the pavement here. The textures are definitely different between the two, and the lighting could play a part in this, but we still see much more defined textures at longer distances in Forza 7. Now when comparing the lighting, we obviously will have some issues here. The lighting never seems to match up in these two games no matter what time of day I select in Project Cars 2. And these two scenes are about as close as I can get it. Project Cars seems to have a more natural lighting effect, whereas Forza 7 seems to have some kind of dark filter that gives a very video game-like feel to it. It looks nicer in most instances, but it's not as realistic looking as Project Cars, so it really just boils down to preference. Shadows seem to render more realistically in Forza 7. If we zoom in on the road here, we can see the edges are more natural in Forza 7, but the difference here is negligible, and honestly both look phenomenal. We've got another win for Forza 7 here when talking about reflective surfaces. The reflective surfaces are much more impressive in Forza, especially alongside the body of the car, and even when driving in first person. During heavy rainfall, it's especially noticeable, with perfectly replicated images in the road puddles. Now with water effects, it kinda goes both ways. Some effects in both games look really cool, but the odd marbles rolling down the windshield in Forza 7 just look weird. Project Cars 2 has some streams of water that pour down the windshield, which looks more realistic. But honestly, it's hard to tell which is best because I've never driven 200 miles per hour in heavy rain. So it looks like both games have their pros and cons. Project Cars sports more realistic lighting, rain effects, and textures, but Forza has better shadows, reflective surfaces, and anti-aliasing. So it all just boils down to preference, and some will think one looks better than the other regardless. What do you guys think? Drop a comment below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more content from me every day.